welcome to Drink Full and Descend, a fanatical analysis of Twin Peaks. Hi, Cameron. How you doing?
I'm pretty good, Mike. How are you this evening?
I'm doing well. Yeah, we're shuffling along here, right?
Something like that. We're kind of splitting things up a little bit, I think. We're going to be sitting down right now and starting to talk about Part 7 of The Return.
Part 7 of The Return.
Looking forward to it. This was one of my favorite episodes so far, if not my favorite.
Yep.
Apples and oranges to compare it to.
There's a lot of action-packed episode for sure.
Yeah, and in many ways, I felt like this is Twin Peaks. We're back in that kind of flow and that kind of rhythm. It felt like to me. I felt like this episode had really a lot of that Lynchian humor. I laughed a whole lot.
Yep.
I enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of action as well. A lot of humor in this episode. Mm-hmm. And I think you were mentioning before, there's a lot that happens in this episode, but it's more or less straightforward, just kind of exposition and filling in a few blank areas, bringing up some new questions.
Yeah, I think it's mostly straightforward. I mean, certainly there are some things we want to talk about, but we don't get really any of these scenes that are, super surreal Black Lodge things, really, right? We're mostly in normal reality. Mm-hmm. So let's get into it.
Yeah, so not much open to that much interpretation for this episode, but of course that's always the case even with the minor things sometimes. Let's talk about Jerry Horn, right? So we start this episode off in the forest.
I don't know where I am.
He doesn't know where he is. He's smoking and maybe he's a little high.
Yeah, that line too. I think I'm high.
But he thinks he's high.
It's what I thought was kind of striking about this is we have seen Jerry enjoying the marijuana when we've seen him this season.
Mm-hmm. We know he runs a company now that infuses food with marijuana, right?
Right, so okay. I mean, we can understand getting high and getting lost in the woods, but there seems like a feeling of something a little stranger going on here. In the background of my mind, all of these thoughts about other accounts of people in the woods around Twin Peaks.
Exactly.
So I guess that's really the question here. Is something more going on with Jerry, or is he just stoned?
Yeah. And I like it that it could be either scenario, right?
Yeah.
He's just a little paranoid because he smoked a little bit too much that day.
Right.
But as you mentioned, he is in the woods around Twin Peaks, and we know there's something off in those woods for sure.
Yeah.
One thing is how he's looking through the woods. There's a panning shot that kind of like goes through this one little section of the woods. And he's looking very intensely at this area of the woods.
Yeah,
right?
It does seem like that. So, okay, something to think about. Mostly just a humorous scene, I thought.
But there's one other thing is, of course, he's got a cell phone with him, and he calls up his brother. He calls up Ben. And this is where he's shouting, I think I'm high. He also shouts that maybe his car has been stolen. And he says, I don't know where I am.
Yeah, well, and I love that on the other end of the phone call, we get Ben Horn, who basically just says things like, what?
Yeah, Jerry,
what?
He's like, yeah, exactly. At first he can't hear him, and he's trying to figure out what's going on, but there is one funny thing there where Jerry actually says, you're saying the same thing, or he says, you say the same thing.
Because Ben repeats, someone stole your car.
Exactly,
yeah. So, maybe there's more going on here than meets the eye.
Well, when you say that it's because he's repeating him saying that somebody stole the car,
right?
I wondered for a moment if he's sitting and just like kind of drinking and dialing. Maybe he's called somebody else. Who has said the same thing that Ben, like, why are you giving me the same response? But of course we don't know, but it's a humorous scene. And it starts us off, and I thought almost a reset, I felt, because we kind of started this whole thing. Of course, we saw the Giant, we saw Cooper, and we saw Jacoby. But way back in episode part 1 of The Return,
right.
I felt like when the characters we really got into and started with were Ben and Jerry.
Right, we saw them early on.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we go to this scene in the sheriff's station. And again, I found this a bit humorous. It's basically Hawk talking to Frank Truman. And maybe the most exposition I can recall seeing in a Twin Peaks scene.
Yes. Spoken exposition,
right.
where they're telling us what's going on a little bit.
Right.
So it's the reveal that the pages that were found in the bathroom door are from Laura Palmer's diary.
Right, so there's
secret
3.
Diary.
There's still 1 missing. And then all of this stuff that, as fans, we know, but Frank Truman wouldn't know, and Hawk's just putting together.
25 years later.
Yeah, I thought this was kind of funny because I realized, in terms of these characters, this is what makes sense, that they're just putting this together now.
Hawk's picking up after the end of season 2 now. He says, so if the good Coop is in the lodge, then
whoever came out of the lodge is not the good Cooper.
Right.
And it's like, okay, good inference that, we all made back in 92 when we saw Fire Walk With Me or whatever.
But it tells us that, first of all, the Twin Peaks Sheriff Department is on the case.
Yeah.
Where, Hawk and Andy might come through where the FBI couldn't.
Yeah. And I thought it played well that you do have this new character of Frank Truman he's telling this to. And of course, Frank wasn't in that original story. So, I thought it worked. And I thought it was, fairly humorous. I enjoyed the scene.
Yeah, I thought that was funny as well. And so, we also like seeing Ben and Jerry. We're back grounded amongst the characters that we love and their take on what's going on.
Right. And I think in terms of what I was saying as we were, talking, getting into this, maybe part of that is we spend maybe the most time in Twin Peaks during this episode that we have so far.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Correct.
Because we go from the Horns to Hawk, and now we're going to follow Andy as he's meeting up with this guy about the truck.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that comes to the next scene. In this next scene, we do see that Andy is on the trail of basically Richard Horn, right? So they've identified the truck. We don't exactly see how. It might have come from Miriam having identified the truck, or other witnesses.
There were so many people around. You have to figure someone got at least a partial plate number.
Right.
I guess. I think if Miriam's going to be folded in here, that might be more explicit.
Mm-hmm.
I could see Richard killing her or something, for example.
Right.
I don't know. I'm speculating.
Yeah.
Because this guy Andy's talking to is freaked out. He's really scared. He says, we can't talk here.
He's trying to shoo him away. He's really like, if the wrong person sees me here, which could be Richard Horn, it could be Red. There are a couple ideas in my head of who might he be scared of.
Yeah, I wondered about that. I'm leaning more towards Richard, if only because, given that scene between Richard and Red, I would hypothesize that Richard would be trying to hide this from Red.
I could see that.
Right. I don't think he would go right to Red and say, oh, help me, I ran over a kid, given that power dynamic.
Well, or that maybe there was a random meeting about to happen. We do know that Red previously told Richard that he would be dropping these the Chinese designer drugs for him in local places.
Right. I mean, is this Marianne's? Is that what
that's what I was wondering.
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. But we do know that he's really scared, and Andy, being a sweetheart as well as a sheriff, actually lets the guy rearrange another time to meet him.
So they arranged to meet at
4:30, right?
4:30.
So another little detail in the very beginning of the return. We hear the Giant saying that 4:30 is something we need to watch for.
Yeah, so we've got now a 4:30. Richard was driving that truck. We've had a Linda who was mentioned, and we're wondering, is this what we're supposed to be paying attention to, or is this a red herring?
Yeah, which it totally could be.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't, the Giant also doesn't say 4:30 p.m.
No, he says 4:30.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
And so that could refer to many things, but at the same time, that set us up in the beginning to look for that sequence of numbers.
Right.
And here we have it in episode 7.
Yeah. So then we, a bit later in the episode maybe, cut to Andy waiting for this guy on the road, and he looks at his watch, and it says it's 5:05. And then basically he leaves. I guess 35 minutes is a reasonable amount of time to wait for someone in a situation like this.
Yeah, I would say. But that also brings up the details. So if this is a little conjecture, but if this is the 4:30 we've been looking for, what does it signify? It's the moment where Andy is stood up when he's supposed to meet this person.
Yeah, and you get these cuts in there back to the guy's house, and the door is ajar.
Right, implying maybe he's already been killed, or maybe he's disappeared, or
at least ominous sort
whoever
of shots.
He was worried about seeing him talking to the cops. Maybe they saw him talking to the sheriff.
It at least gave me that feeling he might be lying dead on the floor inside.
I felt that way,
We don't see that. We just see the door, and it's kind of a great Lynchian shot. Another thing that people have noticed in this scene with Andy is that the watch is a Rolex.
Yes. People were blowing up about this online.
Yeah.
And how the heck could Andy afford a Rolex? Or why would Andy, knowing what we know about him, be interested in a Rolex?
Yeah. And I think, maybe there is a question there. But, it's also one of these things where Twin Peaks fans can get so fanatical, as we are right in the podcast. Sometimes it's hard to tell what is an important detail and what isn't. But
correct, yeah.
Andy does have a Rolex.
Andy does have a Rolex, yeah.
Okay.
The other thing that makes me think is maybe it's the opposite of what it first seems. In other words...
How do you mean?
Well, the sense of like, oh, Andy's got a Rolex. What is he? Got lots of money we don't know about and all this stuff. Maybe it's the opposite of that. Maybe the Rolex is the one nice thing Andy has ever got. Yeah. And it could be a gift. It could, we don't know. It's all speculation.
Yeah.
But it's funny that the character is so complete that one little detail like that, and everybody's questioning, oh, are we in another dimension because Andy
People
has a
are
Rolex?
starting to think that, is Andy dirty? I don't know if I could deal with that.
Is Andy together enough to be a dirty cop?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I kind of don't think so either.
But just that's how much we care about Andy, and that's how much we know him to be sweet and good and wholesome.
Yeah.
Any tiny little hint that there's something wrong with that, and a lot of fans are blowing up, wondering. Oh my God, what does this mean?
On the other hand, to me, the idea that Andy is the kind of guy who even now would have a watch instead of just using his phone as a clock.
Yeah,
that fits for me.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, and we do know there's something about the cell phone technology with Lucy.
Yeah, right.
Maybe he's chosen specifically, like, we don't use cell phones around Lucy. Yeah. Well, I was going to say also the watch, Rolex, is one of those symbolic gifts that you often hear, oh, so-and-so's retiring, or, oh, you've been with the sheriff's office for 25 years, or, I could picture the guys getting together and they got Andy a Rolex, something nice for once,
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
But either way, it's fun.
Indeed.
And I love seeing that Andy has a Rolex.
Right. The other thing that's fun, I think this is where we're going next, right, is to the sheriff's station and the Skyping with Middlebury Doc.
Yes.
I love the setup with the monitor in the desk.
It's great.
I want that.
Yes. When Frank arrived at the TP sheriff's office, he said right away, call the AV guy. We need to hook this desk up.
Right. And he doesn't want the monitor sitting on the desk all the time.
Right.
Right. But, okay, before that he does, it seems, talk to Harry on the phone. We get these moments in there. I don't know how much information we're getting other than reiterations of Harry being sick.
Yeah, he's sick, and it seems like it's something that's bad. And he's somewhere dealing with that, which implies he might be at a treatment center or...
I'm thinking cancer.
Yeah, that seems to be what
Frank
it is.
says, beat this thing at one point, which seems like the kind of thing people say about cancer. We haven't been told, I don't think, but that's sort of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, seems that way. Frank also makes another call before he Skypes with Doc Hayward to call Doc Hayward and ask him, does he know how to Skype, basically.
Yeah, and Doc says, oh, yeah, I use it all the time.
Yeah, so I thought that was very, very real. When are you going to ever see those kind of details in something that's written, that's on TV or in movies, where it's like, oh, yeah, that's how it is these days. There's a call first, after an email, and then during the call says, oh, hey, should we change up this format of communication?
What's your Skype handle?
Yeah, exactly. And so I thought that was very authentic, and it came off really well. But it brings up a couple questions about Doc Hayward that might be sorrowful, maybe not.
Yeah. Well, so you want to start with real life. This is Warren Frost, the actor.
Yes.
Who did pass away shortly, after filming this, really.
He did, yeah. And this episode in the credits is dedicated to him.
Indeed. And Mark Frost's father, again.
Mark Frost's father.
Little,
so he's a family member of the characters in the show, but he's also family to the creators of the show.
Exactly.
So he's a very important figure as an actor. But
the other question then within the narrative that we were discussing is, where's the rest of the Hayward family?
Yeah. So it seems in this way, there's a little joking about the fish biting, and that's the thing. He's not saying, how's the wife and your 3 daughters we know about.
Right.
He's saying, how are the fish being caught?
Yeah, so what's happened?
Did you cook them right after you caught them?
What happened to Donna and Harriet and Gersten? And, well, if you recall the end of season 2, there was that scene with Ben Horne. I mean, I guess it's possible that whole situation led to them being estranged.
Yeah, a quick refresher since we're mentioning it. Ben Horne comes in and is basically spilling the truth that he is actually Donna's father.
Right.
And Doc comes in right after this and freaks out and actually slams Ben against a wall, busting his head. And then Doc Hayward screams in this super anger. It's the first time we see him lose his cool.
Right.
That's how we've left him for the last 25 years. And it was this moment that could actually have disrupted the entire Hayward family.
It could have, although you also have in that scene Donna hugging him and saying, you're my daddy, and things like that. So really we just don't know, but definitely something to think about. Where are the Haywards? Besides Doc?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that he reveals even outside of his family. This is when we find out, which is a big deal to the story for me, is that Audrey Horne is alive, did survive the explosion at the bank.
But was in a coma.
Afterward.
I do believe this gets mentioned in the Secret History as well.
Yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
But in terms of things that you watch, a lot of people were probably learning this right here.
Yeah.
Right. And the reason Frank's calling Doc Hayward, we should mention, right, is that he's had this conversation with Hawk, and Hawk mentioned that Doc Hayward was there after Cooper had come out of the lodge and so on and so forth. Right, back in the end of season 2. And we saw that in the finale.
So Frank is now slowly starting, but now on the case to figure out what's going on with Cooper.
Right, that's also why he called Harry, but Harry, it seems, was too sick to talk about it. Frank decides, I'm just not going to bug him about it right now. No, it's nothing urgent.
Yeah.
Which, okay, that makes sense. But yeah, so the other thing that Doc tells him really is about seeing Cooper, or we know it's the doppelganger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Leaving the hospital, right? And he's speculating that he thought at the time that this was Cooper going to see Audrey in a coma. That's how we get that information.
Right.
Yeah.
And because we can piece together enough now to know, and of course anybody that's outside the narrative knows.
Yeah.
At that point, that's not the good Cooper.
Right. So all this,
we see Bob inside him in the mirror. When he leaves the Great Northern, he kind of leaves a little inexplicably, and we don't know if it's right when he leaves or not. But it's the evil Cooper going to see, at least presumably going to see Audrey in the hospital.
And that's what Doc was thinking anyway, right? So yeah, immediately people were speculating that maybe evil Cooper raped Audrey in a coma and is Richard Horne's father and things like this.
I feel that's a little bit too much speculation from the facts that we have.
We can't at all confirm any of that, but a number of people were making that speculation.
Yeah, but it brings to light the idea that you can drop a hint like that in the show.
Yeah.
And it's like the wolves at the door, they'll carry away any possible speculation.
And it's actually one of those things where I feel like so many people were thinking that, it made me think that's probably wrong. I don't know if you ever have that kind of thought.
Yeah, exactly. Well, especially with anything related to Lynch and Frost and Twin Peaks.
Exactly. I meant, particularly related to this kind of thing where it's like, if that's what so many people are led to think, then...
Yeah, I think that they're planting misdirects.
Yeah.
And I think that there's some, kind of misinformation woven into the story.
Yeah. So, but we don't know for sure if Doppel Cooper did see Audrey in the hospital,
Right.
Who knows? Of course, another possibility here, if Doc just saw him in the hospital, you might recall from the missing pieces that you saw the owl ring, the jade ring, being taken off of Annie's finger, and the nurse took it, right?
Correct. This is a really strange scene because the nurse takes it off of Annie's finger and puts it on her own finger, and we know this comes with a high price. Yeah, she kind of jaunts away, and she's excited and thrilled, and I got the feeling that she changed in that second and decided, I'm not a nurse anymore. Let's run,
Maybe, so I think it's also a possibility that Mr. C was there after the ring.
Correct.
I think that's a possibility we should bear in mind.
Yeah, that definitely could be.
That was why he was in the hospital.
Okay, so that takes us back to South Dakota Police Department morgue.
Right, we're going to check in there because
Constance has done some research,
and Lieutenant Knox, or Cindy, has made her way to South Dakota, right, after the previous scene we saw. She's there to investigate this hit on Major Briggs's fingerprints.
Which she's expecting to see were lifted from something.
Yeah, right, because apparently that's happened 16 times or something.
16 times in 25 years, the FBI had hits of Major Briggs's prints. Here's the, 17th, or this might be the 16th time.
One or the other, yeah.
And when she gets there, Constance, the coroner, describes to her, hey, the prints came off of the body itself.
Right. I think Detective Dave tells her, first of all, there's a body, all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, they go look at it, and then Constance tells her the prints came from this body, and she asks a couple of questions.
Yeah, and she's kind of shocked in that moment to realize, and there's maybe a little fear behind that shock, saying,
oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness, we have Briggs's body? This might be the can of worms that actually I did not want to see in my career.
Right.
Because for 25 years, it seems like it's kind of this legendary case. Earlier on, we see that Cindy, full name Cynthia Knox, right?
Right,
is talking to Colonel Davis. And it's kind of like a jokey situation, like, oh, yeah, we got this hit again. It's the legend of Briggs.
It won't really be anything, but you got to go check it out.
So this is an actualization. It's her realizing, like, oh, geez, the myth is true.
right
sort of moment.
Or something like that. And of course, where's the head? We might know, we saw Briggs's head floating through space. I don't know if we mentioned that. I know we mentioned it in a previous podcast, but maybe it's not really until here that we're getting definite confirmation that it is Briggs's body.
Correct. And who knows if that was Briggs's head? That was a long, visual element floating through space that could have been in Cooper's head while he's in the White Lodge, whatever.
I'm just saying.
But you're right. We don't disembodied.
know. Yeah, we don't know where the head that goes with this body is, but we saw the head without a body floating through space in this weird scene. Okay.
And we have Cindy responding to this saying, okay, I've got to call and report, but she also kind of hints that this isn't going to be their case for that much longer. She kind of feels out the FBI's coming in on this.
Because she knows they're going to have to call the FBI and so on. And I love that little phone call with Colonel Davis when she explains how he's missing a head. And the other thing, that the body is the wrong age, right? We didn't talk about that yet.
Mm-hmm. So it's basically the body has not aged. It's if it should be that of a 70-something-year-old man,
right?
If it had aged correctly,
right? Because Constance says he was killed within the past few days, but also says the body is that of a man in his mid to late 40s, right? Something like that. And so there's that weirdness here. If Briggs had died when he was in his mid-40s, which I think we had been thinking, 25 years ago, that would have been 25 years ago.
Yeah.
But if he only died a few days ago, then he should have been in his 70s.
Here's what I love.
What the hell?
This is where I'm really starting to love the show.
Yeah.
We're getting more and more science fiction. And we know from Secret History that Major Briggs was involved with this pursuit and study of possible extraterrestrial or interdimensional activities happening in the woods around Twin Peaks.
Right, and we saw him disappear in the original series, and
he was marked.
Go to maybe the White Lodge, people think, or whatever.
And so we're really getting far out there, and it's really sci-fi. And there's also, this is followed by what might be a critical scene. So we see that Cynthia Knox goes out into the hallway.
Yeah, then there's again
she's calling Davis,
our
Colonel
friend
Davis.
from the prison, the oily black.
Yeah, charred, burnt, or somehow oily, character. That also is almost a motif character, like the character we discussed this earlier that we've seen in Mulholland Drive and other places.
So, a couple of questions here. One is, what is this guy doing there? I mean, he's just
the second you see him, you say, oh, is that an extra in the background? And you're like, wait, no, it can't be.
Right.
But there's a really strange moment where she seems to hear something, turns around and looks down the hallway. My first thought was, oh, she sees him and looks back.
Yeah, we were talking about this.
Does she see him?
I think the reason I really marked a question about whether she sees him is because if she did see that guy, you would expect a little more of a response.
Right. She didn't tell the other people. She didn't react.
Her response seems more along the lines of, I sense someone in the hallway and I kind of turn around to look.
Or she heard the door that the guy comes through, and she turned and looked to the door and didn't see him at all.
She looks at him, but I think there's a question about whether she saw him because, I mean, just thinking about it, if you saw a man who looked like that in that space in that moment.
Oh, in the morgue? No, I'd have been out of there. It doesn't matter what branch of the armed forces
run
I worked
away.
For. Yeah.
Or at least react more than she does. So
yes.
I think that is a question. And of course, we already saw him in the prison kind of dematerialize or whatever, as we talked about before.
Well, and in that scene, he not only dematerializes, but his body disappears. He's disembodied.
Yeah.
And he's a head. And when we're referring to Briggs, that's what we're talking about.
Right. And
let's a body without a head.
Let's not forget about poor Ruth. Where's her body?
Yeah. Where is Ruth's body? That may never come to
light. We might
light.
never know. We get so caught up in thinking about Briggs, but where's Ruth's body? You know?
The other thing about this is the figure that comes in, this shadowy, charred figure, walks the complete length of the hallway. Yeah. Cynthia goes back in to discuss to Dave and Constance.
Right.
This isn't going to be your case anymore.
Yep.
During that time, we see the figure walk by in the background and just passes that room. So, again, we've seen him, but it seems that none of the characters in that scene have seen him.
Yeah.
This also reminded me of Fire Walk With Me, Philip Jeffries and Coop. Like, was he here, Coop? And where he walks right by him, but he doesn't notice that he's walked right by him.
Right, and speaking of Fire Walk With Me, you might also think maybe this figure bears some resemblance to the guys we saw in the Philip Jeffries scene, in the convenience store scene, rather, the kind of in the background guys.
Yes.
But although they did not seem all black and sooty.
There's some speculation about this online as well. A lot of that has to do with kind of the garb they're wearing, the gloves, the kind of forestry type figure that wears a beanie and a flannel shirt.
Yeah, I mean, at least if you look closely, it seems like it could be one of those guys, but just all covered in soot or oil or whatever, Right. Something like that.
And so just the mystery of those guys alone, we don't need any of the other bodies or any of the other people. This
exactly.
could have been a whole series about who the hell are these guys that keep appearing. So it seems that Cindy has a lot of work to do, right? She's got her work cut out for her.
Right.
So.
Well, but who knows, right? Maybe all of this is going to be picked up by the FBI because now Colonel Davis has to call the FBI. So I am curious, what's the result of that phone call? Are we all of a sudden going to get, Albert or someone investigating this thing in South Dakota? Maybe.
And I love the duality of authority here as well. So, and this occurs in Secret History as well. So Briggs and Dougie Milford.
Dougie Milford, yeah.
We're working with the Air Force and with the federal government.
Yeah.
The FBI is kind of a different branch of authority that also has Gordon Cole's Blue Rose cases.
Yeah, and
right?
Isn't there something in the Secret History that once Dougie Milford loses his official position or something, he only trusts Gordon Cole in the government?
Well, I think the book that's true, but the character is Briggs, where he's adopting Briggs to take on his work.
Okay.
And he meets with Briggs, and he says to Briggs, you can ask me 2 questions about what's going on here.
Yeah.
And Briggs does, and one of those questions is, what's our mission here? And he comes flat out and he says, this is to not only the pursuit of interdimensional characters, possibly extraterrestrial beings, but to monitor them and to be the first point of contact in case of contact or attack.
Yeah.
So he's actually put Major Briggs in this position saying, hey, you're the human on Earth that's going to let us all know if aliens attack us and are responsible for protecting us.
Yeah.
So that just blows it into such huge science fiction terms.
Right.
That
indeed.
I'm ready to watch another 1,000 episodes of Twin Peaks.
Yeah, I know.
I would like to see this never end.
Yeah.
And when I'm 80 on my deathbed, it'll be like, whatever happened to Briggs and we never found his head and
I doubt we'll be so fortunate.
Yes, that would be wonderful. But that's the level that we're talking on here of kind of a mystery within a complex labyrinth, So, but nevertheless, I do feel like Cindy's got her work cut out for her. What she previously thought was a myth that was something to be laughed at.
Yeah.
She's now thrown right into the mix.
She thought this was just a little jaunt that wasn't going to go anywhere, and uh-oh.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of wonder if she's going to be like a Cooper-type figure when Coop first comes to Twin Peaks and starts seeing visions and having dreams and starts getting connected more to what's going on there, where, now we're going to possibly see that with Cindy Knox, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of her.
Okay, so let's go to this great scene of Gordon Cole whistling in his office.
This, I think, at this point, watching episode 7 is my favorite thing I've seen so far.
Just him sitting in front of the poster of the nuclear explosion.
There's a huge poster of the A-bomb behind him, just a
leaning
giant
back
mushroom
in his
cloud.
chair and casually whistling.
And he's casually sitting back in his chair whistling, and just a look on his face with the pressed lips and his eyes squinting.
Yeah.
And if you love David Lynch, you love this moment, right? It's just, he's turned the camera around on himself.
Yeah.
Something to be said in general, I think, with him taking the kind of this very important figure and acting as that character himself.
Yeah.
Putting himself on TV.
Yeah.
So Lynch is going for the full experience and did before, introducing himself as Agent Cole. But just to see him sitting there whistling, he's got a thumb at certain points on his hearing aid.
Yeah, right. Like he's testing out hearing his whistling through his hearing aid or something. I don't know.
And it's also the type of whistling that's not smooth, like melodic whistling. At first I'm thinking, are you doing bird calls?
Yeah.
Or is this a thing in Twin Peaks you learned? Or?
But I've got a couple of things here, right? On the one hand, it sounds like the Rammstein song, Engel, or
Angel.
Angel was what it is. I was trying to say it in German, but,
sure.
Pardon my pronunciation. Mm-hmm. But also, and it might be the same thing, right? I think Rammstein might have just lifted this or sampled it even, which is the theme from Fellini's Amarcord.
Mm-hmm.
So those notes, I think actually, given what we know about David Lynch, lover of Fellini on the one hand.
Sure.
But he's also done some stuff with Rammstein. I mean, and Rammstein was in Lost Highway, their music, and I think he's had some other contact with them. So I almost think it's both references.
Yeah.
So the Rammstein song is called Angel.
Mm-hmm.
And with the Fellini, that phrase, Almacord, has this sense, I've gleaned from the internet, of being this sort of idiomatic way of saying, do you remember, or please remember. So kind of like, remember that, you know? So
there's like a nostalgia thing going on.
Yeah. Do you remember Angel?
Do you remember Angel?
Right.
Or an angel? Or maybe do angels remember us? Or
right.
Are you going to forget? Are the angels going to forget about us and leave us stranded?
The angels all gone away, right?
Yeah.
And go back to fire, walk with me. That's what Laura says.
Okay, right.
We talked about this in a previous podcast, right? That thing about falling through space. Would you go faster or slower? The end of that, Laura says, and the angels won't help you because the angels have gone away.
Because they've all gone away.
And but then there's that kind of maybe a little cheesy shot at the end of Fire Walk with Me where she's with the angels and she's crying. You remember that? Yeah,
sure.
Okay, so are we very subtly being asked to remember angels just through the whistling?
It could be as an archetype or as that scene, or like I said, putting those two concepts together. Right. It could be asking the angels to remember us as well, I think, which is interesting, spinning it around that way.
And
please don't forget about us. We've got this darkness
and we're
in
talking
the woods
about,
outside Twin Peaks or whatever.
Music, and we've done that as we've been going. I don't know if we really put emphasis on this in our previous discussions, but a lot of these songs that we're hearing in the Roadhouse and so on, at some point, use the word remember. Right. Which I was just thinking about just now as we were talking about this. So, I don't know. What's memory and how that ties in. But definitely a great scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is actually interrupted for a bit of dialogue with Albert, who comes into the room.
Oh, yeah, because he's got to check in about going to see Diane.
He's got to check in. He has gone to see Diane at the Max Vaughn's bar.
Right, and we learn here about how well that went.
Yeah, and he basically tells Cole, she told me to fuck off.
Yeah. That was it.
And that was it. And in that moment,
your turn.
Cole, he says, your turn. And Cole says, well, will you go with me, though?
Yeah, he makes him say please.
And this is a great moment where Albert's like, you know what, I will, but if you say please. And then that moment where he pauses, right? You don't know if you're going to get the please for a second.
Well, and particularly because Cole says what, or whatever.
Yeah, you heard me.
You heard me.
Yeah. And it's true, he did hear him.
Yeah,
he's playing so this is a really great scene because of how well they know each other.
Right.
And also, like Doc Hayward, this is another character that very sadly we have lost. This is Miguel Ferrer.
Miguel Ferrer. Yeah.
And he's wonderful as Albert. When he first is introduced in the original series, he comes in as kind of a mean city, trash-talking city guy.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought he was funny, and I always liked him, but particularly you warm up to him over time.
You warm up to him over time, yeah. And then here now we see he's been right at the right hand of Cole for years and years and years, and they know each other extremely well.
Right, so they're off to see Diane. I love this scene, too. We're talking about the humor in this episode.
Yeah.
I was just laughing so hard so much throughout this because we really get a nice taste of Diane, Laura Dern. It's great.
So we see her apartment. This is where we go next.
And she's got some boy toy or something.
Yeah, exactly. There's a young man that knows her and kind of leaves. Oh, the guests arrived. And I think it's funny that when David Lynch shows up, he says, we're here to see Diane, champ. He calls him champ.
Yeah.
That alone
is
funny.
A noticeably younger man.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably in his 20s or something, but he's also, I wondered, is this, boy toy or what the deal is? But Diane knows what she wants, and she lives her life.
And she loves telling people in the FBI to go fuck themselves.
Off. Yeah, fuck you, everybody. So, this is really great that when they come in and they sit down, and she basically tells both of them, fuck you. Yeah. They also have a little discussion about coffee and cigarettes, which I love. I
love some of these lines here, too. I love when Cole says, now that we've got the pleasantries out of the way.
Yeah.
After she told them both, fuck you. Going, do you have any coffee? No, and I don't have any cigarettes either.
And she's drinking coffee and smoking when she says that, yes.
And so then this might require a small attitude adjustment on your part.
Right,
that's the whole scene is just hilarious.
Yeah, but you can tell also Cole, we know why he's the director of the FBI. He is so smooth. He knows how to respond instantly and appropriately in any situation. He doesn't forget any of the details. Yeah. The Cole's only weakness, which we don't know, might not turn out to be a weakness, is his hearing, right?
Right.
Which we've seen examples of might be selective and not purely based on pressure waves. But he also admits here that he's given up smoking.
Yeah.
Tobacco. He says in this like nostalgic way, right?
Yeah, and I don't know. You were talking about this with other characters like Harry Dean Stanton. I don't know if David Lynch has quit smoking.
We don't know. I mean, throughout the years of watching videos with him, I always saw him smoking yellow American Spirits.
Smoking American Spirits. Yeah, my brand.
Right.
And you can even see in some of his films that Thunderbird on the cigarettes. He used them for props too. But regardless, one thing I thought was worth noting here is that when they tell Diane, or he tells Diane that Cooper apparently is in federal prison, her first response is good.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So she either knows that it's evil Cooper, or there's some part of the story that we're missing that we don't know between Coop and Diane's relationship.
Well, and what's up with her relationship with the FBI and all of this hostility to all anyone associated with the FBI? Well,
let me just ask you authentically, as I'm thinking about this, is there any evidence that she is an FBI agent, or is she somebody that got kind of wrapped up in their, web?
Yeah.
Was she a witness to something, or how did she enter all this? Was she somehow? We always knew her as
just Coop's, assistant, or whatever word we want, right? He was sending her these tapes. She was sending him earplugs and such in the original series, it seems. It always seemed like they had a pretty close relationship. You find Cooper, through that tape recorder, sharing personal details with her also.
Yeah, and there's a lot of poetic moments as well, just describing fresh air and coffee and such.
Yeah, right. So, I guess my read was always she was his assistant. But, look, that would mean that she was employed by the FBI, So what happened here? Maybe when Cooper disappeared, she lost her job, and that's part of why she's pissed off at everyone. Or maybe it's something else. I don't know. But she certainly seems angry at the FBI.
Yeah, it's true. We don't know that. And just a word on that is throughout the entirety of Twin Peaks and Fire Walk with Me and such, I always thought, is Diane just what he's calling his files, what he's calling his, has he put like kind of a persona to the person he's explaining? We never knew that it was an actual person.
It wasn't definitive, at least, because we never saw her before.
Right. But you bring up a good point, the fact that, Diane sent me earplugs, or certain things, maybe there were clues before. But there's a couple of things in the scene. For example, we were analyzing coffee in the last podcast. This coffee that she serves is damn good coffee.
Of course.
And so we know that Diane's onto good coffee for whatever that's worth. And Cole says, I need you to go see Coop.
Right, and so he finally gets through to her with this line about, it has to do with something you know about, and that's enough said about that, or something like that. What is he talking about there?
Yeah.
And
this could be a hint that it's a Blue Rose case. It could be a hint of something else that's just not,
Yeah.
There's another scene where later on, after they get Diane, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, when they're talking out there, where Cole and Diane are kind of having a little private conversation away from Albert and Tammy.
Yeah.
And in that, you get kind of an idea that maybe Diane and Cole have an understanding or have witnessed things that not everybody knows about.
Yeah.
So this could either be a reference to the Blue Rose case, or in general, it could just be something part of the story we don't know yet. And when Diane finds out Coop's in prison, she says, good?
Yeah.
That brings up a lot of questions.
Yeah, so maybe we'll return to that later when we get to that. So first of all, we have this airplane scene before we get to this visit of Mr. C in prison. And there were a couple of things about that I think we want to talk about, yeah?
Yeah, so this is Diane and Albert and Tammy and Cole all taking a private jet, presumably the FBI's jet, to South Dakota to go and confront Cooper, right?
Yeah, Diane's sitting apart from the rest of them, though.
Yeah.
But we get a couple of things here. Well, first, maybe let's start with the airplane windows thing.
Yeah, so you get the external shot.
Well, this is the thing I ultimately read. I think it's stock footage you can find.
Okay. Okay.
But the reason I found that is that people picked up on this weird thing happening with the airplane windows.
Yes, there's flashing lights in a certain order.
Which is not in the stock footage, right? So people started going down this rabbit hole of, is there some kind of secret code here with these flashes on the airplane windows? And if you go back and you watch that scene, frame by frame or whatever, you can see it very definitely there's something there.
So what do they just, like, let's say there's Windows 1 through 5, and whichever one flashes, they say, oh, the code is 2541, or, well, have you looked into this? What are they interpreting?
I have. There's like 6 windows, and then people notice there's also something that flashes sort of on the tail window, so that would be 7. But they flash, like the middle 3 will light up, or then one at the front and then one at the back. I'm not getting that quite right, I don't think. I've been trying to keep up on this. I've yet to find anything where it really seems like someone has cracked the code here. But there's all sorts of stuff. If you go on Welcome to Twin Peaks, the website, there's an article about this. A number of people have commented on there. I know people have been engaging with this on Reddit, for example. And if nothing else, if you go to those websites, you can be impressed by the level of obsessiveness of
it's fans, actually something we're consciously trying not to do here, because we want to be the fanatical analysis, but we don't want to actually fall into a rabbit hole where we're drifting so far away from the story itself.
I just wanted to mention it because it is something that I am kind of hoping that some good, code breaker or something comes up with something that seems cool here.
Yeah.
But they haven't yet. Some people are theorizing maybe it's flute fingerings or something. They're talking about Wyndham Earl's flute. And
Wyndham Earl had a shakuhachi flute, actually, which only has 4 holes in it.
Okay.
Traditional
so,
Japanese.
Right, exactly.
Family,
right.
Yeah.
There's just all this stuff.
Not to dispel that one too
I
quickly.
know, but a lot of it... That's the thing. A lot of it just seems like speculation, and I've tried to have an eye out for anything that seems like, aha, this is it, and it's just not there yet. Well, maybe eventually, though, give it 25 years.
Yeah. Well, I interpret it as not so much what's the secret code, but just that there's this flashing light, just like the Detective Dave's flashlight.
That's true,
any kind of strobing or anytime you see something in a Lynch project that has to do with intermittent electricity flow. That's not solid, the light strobe, and so here's another example of that. Even though it's just a reflection, if it is just a reflection, it's actually not electrical light.
Well, but it doesn't. That's part of the thing that got people down this rabbit hole. Is it really, if it's supposed to be the sun glancing off the windows, they did a bad job. Which that's not really plausible, right? So it just doesn't really seem like it's just the sun. But maybe you're onto something in terms of that flickering light motif.
Yep.
Maybe let's just leave it at that for the moment.
Well, if we get to revisit it, there will be a reason to revisit it.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of funny and interesting things that happen on this airplane ride to South Dakota. We see, first of all, Albert is quoting the Bible.
Yeah.
He says, "Judge not, lest ye be judged."
Yeah.
To which Diane, of course, responds,
"Fuck you, Albert."
Fuck you, Albert.
Yeah, okay.
So I love that.
I was half guessing.
Yeah, Diane has so many fuck yous involved.
What's your name again? Fuck you, Tammy.
Yeah, the fuck you, Tammy is really a great one because we're not quite expecting that. But when you connect that, I actually get it. Like, I wonder how much that was about Tammy and how much Diana specifically saying, "Are you associated with the FBI?" Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, then fuck you.
Exactly. Because right at the end of this whole thing, when she says cheers to the FBI or whatever, that's what I was trying to point out before. She seems pissed at the organization as a whole and thus all of its members.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But so talking about Tammy, she brings over those fingerprints.
We saw her studying these
a couple
earlier.
episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Albert notices rather quickly that the one fingerprint is, it's been
reversed.
Or that the person who took it flipped it around to make it look like the old fingerprints, but it was actually reversed.
Right.
Right. And I sort of love this. We mentioned the backwards vary before. And now we get lynched through Gordon Cole talking about that directly, explicitly, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they're coming back to Cooper, but, Albert, Cole, and Tammy have all seen this Cooper before.
Yep.
He says when he greets him inappropriately by saying, "It is Yerev, very good to see you again, old friend." So he compares that to the numbers of digits on the hand.
Right. So he counts it out on the on Tammy's fingers, I think, right? And then on the left ring finger, this is the fingerprint that's backwards or whatever.
Yeah, he says it's the spiritual mound or the spiritual finger.
Yeah, you think about that, Tammy.
Now you think about that, Tammy. That's hilarious in itself because Tammy's like very sharp, obviously. But,
she noticed this.
There's some things that that maybe she just quite doesn't understand the level of kind of probably extra physical, metaphysical possibilities going on here.
Yeah, I just loved how quickly it seems they're picking up on the fingerprint thing.
Mm-hmm.
I loved how explicitly Lynch is bringing up the Erev thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
he
for a couple of
Up,
weeks. Yeah, right, exactly. So for a couple of weeks, maybe some of us were thinking we're really cool and hip for having noticed this little thing.
That was a secret Easter egg that you'll never hear about again.
Then Lynch is just straightforwardly bringing it right out into the open.
Yeah.
So...
Well, the other thing is that it's the spiritual mound, the spiritual finger. It's the ring finger, which
right.
suggests, a ring.
Left ring finger.
Left ring
with
finger.
this ring I thee wed.
With this ring I thee wed and the jade ring, and so this connects a lot of things to the story. Yeah.
Indeed. Mm-hmm.
Quite an interesting scene.
So then they get to the prison, basically, right? That's why they're on this airplane, and Diane is insistent that she talk to. "Quote unquote" Cooper alone.
Yeah, and Cole says, you're in control of this. You control the curtain. You control the microphone.
10-minute stops.
Yep.
And then this scene again, really disturbing.
Yeah, just the revealing of this evil Cooper, Mr. C, behind the screen with the curtain coming up. And this happened in the other time we saw this before too. When the curtain rises, he's already staring right into your eyes. And we've known he can predict when the food's coming, and he has this kind of extra sensory thing going. In this moment. He's already staring her down as second his eyes can make contact, and he says, "I knew it was going to be you."
Right.
So it's just really scary right off the bat.
Are you upset with me, Diane?
Yeah. It says, "Are you upset with me?" And he says, "I think that you're upset with me."
Yeah.
And in this, she's basically kind of giving Cooper a test, right? Trying to see, are you the Cooper that I know? Right. She says, "When was it the last time that we saw each other?" Basically.
At your house, don't you remember?
And she says, I'll always remember that.
Yeah, they both say they'll always remember.
Yeah, or never forget.
I'll never forget it. Yeah, I think Diane says both. And so now we're starting to wonder what happened.
Yep. Right? Diane also, she says, "Look at me."
Yeah.
And then Cooper says, or she says, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
And Cooper says, "I don't know what you mean when you say, 'Who are you?'" And this reminded me of the previous time when he's met with Cole. And there's the statement about, we're looking forward to having you home again. Right. And he says, "Well, I've never left home."
Right.
And so now it's like, "Who are you?" Well, I don't know what you mean.
Exactly.
And so that could bring up a couple of things. The fascinating about, essentially, who is he? And that's exactly the question that we have.
Exactly. But I think the other big question here is, what happened on that night, right? Because when was the last time I saw you? You might answer by saying what we did. Yeah. Right, like the last time I saw you was when we were recording the other night or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But instead we get, the last time I saw you was at your house.
Yeah.
And what happened at her house that they will always remember. And given the way Mr. C's voice and whole demeanor remains so dark and creepy, I think we're guessing it was something bad, probably, that happened.
Yeah,
right?
And this also could be the reason why she says good, that he's in jail.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's something that has happened between them in the past that doesn't seem to be too good. She also in this moment says for him to look at her. She says very emotionally, "Look at me." And he does. He's still looking at her. And then in that moment, I think she decides what the answer is.
Yeah.
And she lowers the curtain. She's had enough. She can't take it.
Yeah, so there is another question related to this of whether that last time they saw each other it was the evil Cooper or not. I mean, I was kind of thinking probably it was.
Yeah, but we don't know where in the timeline that happened.
Yeah, we just don't know for sure, but I was thinking probably it was.
I'm guessing that it probably was because we never saw Diane in Twin Peaks,
right,
and that's where he stopped. That's where he entered the lodge, and
exactly, right. So it would have to have been, if it was the good Cooper, it would have to have been before he went to Twin Peaks.
So she's quite disturbed by this. She closes the curtain. She goes out to meet with Cole and them, leaves in a huff, and everybody's chasing after her.
Yeah.
And, she goes out into the parking lot, and there's this moment that we mentioned earlier where she's discussing with Cole, separate from Tammy and Albert.
Right.
She pulls out a little bottle of vodka, and she kind of pounds it.
Yeah.
And it's in this moment where it seems like she's about to crack. And Laura Dern is amazing. I love her. She's an amazing actress. She's really pulling something cool off here.
Yeah.
Where she's about to crack physically, and she pounds this little thing of vodka.
Yeah.
She swallows it, and she toughens right up. And we see that's the tool she uses. And she says, cheers to the FBI.
Yeah,
and again, it's like a fuck the FBI.
Indeed.
And so she's blaming something about the power structure or the FBI opening up some kind of rift themselves. Who knows? But yeah, we see that this is alcohol is how she's coping.
Yeah, and she explicitly says here when she's talking to Gordon that it's not just a matter of age passing or him changing or whatever, but that something's not there.
Yeah,
right?
and she's gesturing toward her heart.
Yeah. So that's worth noting.
Yeah,
right?
that's definitely worth noting. And correct me if I'm wrong, Cole asks what happened the last time that they saw each other.
Yeah, and
she doesn't answer right now, but she says, you know what, you and I are going to have to talk.
We'll have a talk sometime or something like that.
Yeah, so I want to be in the room when that conversation happens.
I hope that we see that at some point and aren't just left to guess.
Yeah, but that also implies, like, even separated 20 feet from Tammy and Albert, no, this is something that will be between you and me.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll tell you in another time.
Agreed.
And it must be something kind of fucked up because otherwise maybe she could have communicated it in that moment.
Definitely thinking something along the lines of sexual assault or something. But we'll see. We'll see what we learn.
And that's, of course, speculation, but speculation grounded in kind of reading the character's reaction.
Yeah, definitely.
And, so, again, this brings it back to, we got our Cooper back, but is he irredeemably evil now? And how did... Jeez,
man, and
Frosted Lynch. Gosh.
One thing, I don't even think I thought about this until maybe the other day. If we do get, however this might happen, if we get back to the one Cooper, will he remember what Mr. C has done? Because that would be heartbreaking.
Well, there are some hints at the possibilities here. I mean, when Leland cracks and realizes that it was Bob,
exactly,
he does remember everything that he did, and he arguably dies because of the guilt.
Yeah,
right. Leland dies in that scene not because of his heart stopping or somebody hits him or he just kind of dies of guilt and
doesn't he bang his head against the wall on purpose or something?
Yeah,
yeah.
But that happens. But he's still, he's. So I guess you could say it's a suicide in that sense. But even after he hits his head against the wall and when he's on the floor, he's still kind of crying.
Yeah.
And there's a moment there where Cooper takes his hand and kind of gives him redemption, though, right?
Kind of, or offers him forgiveness.
Yes.
I think.
And I always thought it was one of those moments where he's like, look into the light. Things are going to be okay. This was beyond you.
Yeah.
And you know what? To me, that was kind of a redemptive moment that Cooper stepped in and gave him. But I always loved the idea that Cooper was, there's a high degree of empathy with Cooper.
Absolutely.
And when he does that, he is basically, even if it's not going to add up to anything in the quote-unquote afterlife, he's still going to let him die without such a great weight on his chest.
Yeah.
And so if somebody lifts a weight off of another's chest, you can only think, well, is he taking that weight on himself? And that's actually what we saw.
Right. Well, we're talking about Mr. C, right? And this is basically the next thing we're going to go to, right? So there's a lot of good continuity in this episode.
Yeah. We're back to the prison in South Dakota.
And Mr. C blackmailing the warden.
Right. This is great.
Something about a strawberry.
Yeah.
That's how he gets in the room with the warden, who then says he's turned off the cameras and pulls out a gun and points into Mr. C's face.
Yeah, Mr. C says something along the lines of, first of all, let's remind everybody that when they catch Mr. C, they find him with some cocaine, with a submachine gun.
And a dog leg.
And a dog leg.
Yeah.
And he reminds the warden here of the leg, and he says, you know what, there's 3 other legs.
That dog had 4 legs.
That dog had 4 legs. The other legs have gone out with the information he doesn't want anybody to know.
Yeah, with the information you are thinking about right now.
Right now. Yeah. Implying that he's reading his mind. He mentions that if anything happens to him, that the other dog legs have gone out with the information that he's thinking about.
Right, which is kind of weird because you do have... so he's got some information on him, but why the dog legs? Right?
Yeah, why the dog legs? And who are the other people? Because he also says the dog legs went out with that information to some people that he definitely wouldn't want coming around there.
Right, exactly.
So is this henchmen? Is this, who is it that is possibly going to come threaten?
Yeah, that's unclear. And the warden asks him, how does he know that Mr. C knows? Right.
And he tells him, he just says the name Joe McCluskey.
Right, like that's enough.
Yep.
Right, now the warden says, oh, fuck, you do have the dirt on me.
Yeah.
Looking up Joe McCluskey, we talked about this. I don't know, just there is a historical figure, a track runner, I mentioned to you, right? This Olympic track runner. And it's an interesting little anecdote. I don't know if Lynch and Frost want us to be finding this, but the track runner Joe McCluskey in the 1932 Olympics got the bronze medal in the steeplechase, but it turned out that the lap counter made a mistake, and they actually ran one lap too many. And if they'd called the race when it should have ended, he would have had the silver medal. But Joe McCluskey said, no, there's only one finish line, and so that stood. And so I guess it's the only steeplechase run or whatever in Olympic history that is one lap longer than standard.
I see.
Weird little detail, I thought, that I found here. In terms of the show, no idea who Joe McCluskey is.
Right. Well, there's like 4 ways I can fit that into the Twin Peaks canon as making sense in interdimensionalism or loops or something, but chasing a steeple. But, it's interesting to follow that up.
Right, and then there's this other thing in here about Mr. Strawberry again, right? You're late, Mr. Strawberry, now, he says.
Yeah, he says if anything happens to me, they're going to find out the legs, and they're going to find out about Joe McCluskey and you're late, Mr. Strawberry.
But he says, I don't care about you, so let me go, and let Ray go. Give me a car with a friend in the glove box, right? And then no one will ever have to find out about, Joe McCluskey and you're late, Mr. Strawberry.
Correct.
Right? So who the hell is Mr. Strawberry? This is, I think, the 3rd mention of Mr. Strawberry. I kind of started thinking it was a dog for some reason, maybe because of the possessive "your."
And just Mr. Strawberry doesn't sound like the average. There, of course, I can think of another sports reference. But.
And apparently whoever it is dead, I guess. You're late, Mr. Strawberry. But that's about all we get. But apparently it's enough for the warden to decide to let him and Ray go, even though Gordon Cole, director of the FBI, has just told him, hold on to this guy. Yeah. So whatever.
And when they drive away in that car he provides them, he's kind of looking up from the balcony, and he's looking down on them, and he's probably going through his mind, I'm probably still in a heap of shit.
Yeah.
And how do I explain this away?
He's deep. He needs a golden shovel.
Yeah. He's deep.
About this time.
That guy needs a golden shovel,
Indeed.
for sure.
Indeed.
The other thing that we should point out is that it's not just him either, right? He's got other guards at the prison that are obviously willing to go along with him breaking the law.
Well, he is the warden, but he does sort of tie in some guards as complicit here.
So Ray and Mr. C are on the road, heading who knows where they're heading, but they're gone and they're no longer locked up. And after the eerie communications between Mr. C and Cole and Diane, it's quite disconcerting to know he's back on the road again.
Right. And, I recall when I watched this the first time having this thought of, I guess I should have seen this coming. We weren't just going to leave Doppel Cooper in prison for the whole show.
Sure.
So, all right. So he's out and, it's a little dark, but I was also kind of excited by that moment because I really did enjoy him being out in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Kicking people's ass. And so I'm curious to see what he does next after this.
I like bad guys too. Yeah.
For sure. Well,
for sure. Yeah. So this brings us back to Lucky 7 Insurance in what I think is probably my favorite scene in this episode.
Oh, yeah, with Dougie
now.
And so your favorite scene is...
Well, just this whole sequence of events that starts in the insurance office with Tony kind of talking to Dougie like, hey, I saw you talking to Bushnell, right?
Yeah.
He's trying to...
And Dougie's just kind of... Did you notice this? He's kind of like... stabbing the desk with the pencil. He's not even writing on anything. It's like that, whatever that stuff is on your desk in an office, it's kind of black, foamy stuff. Yeah. He's just kind of poking at that. Yeah. Right? Okay.
Yeah, he's, I think what it is he uses the pencil like a knife. We noticed that before when he doesn't hold it properly. But the notepad he is strayed from, and if you look at the notepad in front of him, you see the staircase and the images he was drawing before. But he's continued drawing it off of the paper onto the desk. So he's still stabbing and drawing that same symbol.
Which is weird because when he was making those symbols on the case files before, he seemed to be getting some guidance with those lights. So, okay. But
he's basically ignoring Tony. And Tony, like we saw in the other scene, Tony kind of keeps talking and filling in the blanks.
Well, and he's maybe getting a little paranoid now because Dougie's called him out as a liar. Yeah. Right.
And he wants to know what him and Bushnell were talking about. So it basically gives us the idea that he's worried that they're going to get to the bottom of his insurance scam or whatever was happening.
Right, Right, so the police show up to see Dougie about his car, and humorously, they are the detectives Fusco.
Right, 3 of them that are brothers this time.
Yeah, and if you look in the credits, all of them have first names, but they share a last name, and apparently they're brothers. And I just, I thought it was particularly humorous that this is how they introduce themselves.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
Detectives Fusco.
Yeah, and they love doing it that way, too. Okay, so also this is the third group of brothers we've been introduced to in the show that I can remember. We have, of course, Harry and Frank, the sheriffs of Twin Peaks.
Right.
The brothers Fusco, which are the detectives here.
Yeah.
And then there's the brothers in the casino, correct?
Yeah, the Mitchums who were showing up in that casino scene. So, yeah, a lot of brothers going on here in The Return. That's kind of interesting. And
just a point to be
strange.
Noted. I wonder if we'll continue to see a theme like that.
Well, particularly with 3 detectives who are brothers. And to go back to the Trumans, I don't think we hit on this before, but my understanding of how sheriffs work, it does seem odd to me that a town could have 2. Aren't they usually elected?
Well, but we haven't seen them both acting sheriffs at the same time.
Right. I mean, I guess there's a question of whether
Frank
they're both
stepped
acting.
In, after Harry got sick.
But still, here we've got 3 detectives who are brothers. That's a little odd.
Yeah. But it also is possibly an underlying hint at describing nepotism and authority, or
maybe,
because we're seeing these figures of authority that are in the same families,
But this is a humorous scene, and we should mention also Janie E. shows up around this time to give Dougie a ride.
Yeah, so the Fusco brothers are there, seemingly pointing fingers at Dougie a little bit, grilling him about his car.
Right, but Janie E.'s there in order to actually field these questions for the most part.
Exactly.
Because Dougie's Dougieing,
Yeah. But she fields them perfectly, too, right?
Oh, it's great. There are more important things in life than a car,
And, well, now is as good a time as any to tell you that we're reporting it missing now.
Yeah,
Dougie,
indeed.
Are you missing your car? Yes, we are reporting it missing.
And then Bushnell comes in and helps out, and he says, officers, have you found the car? And finally it becomes revealed that they have.
Yeah, and I wondered about this. He comes in and he says, but you have found the car, haven't you? Like it's more accusatory, like he knows that they have.
Well, I think maybe he had heard them talking and just inferred from the questions they were asking that they'd found the car, right? Why were they showing up?
Right.
To ask about the car when Dougie hadn't reported the car missing or stolen. Well, probably because they found the car, right?
And then they admit, okay, we found the car. Yeah. It's been destroyed in a fire, and some car thieves have died in the car.
Well, there you go then.
Yeah, there you go then. That answers it.
But yeah, a nice humorous little scene. They want them to do some other paperwork, but because Janie E. is such a tough dame, they say, she can do it later. They can do it later.
Right. And Bushnell wants to keep them around for something specific, and then actually says, okay, you've had a long day. Why don't you head home or whatever? We'll talk later as well. Right. And then this leads them outside the building for the climax of what I take as the paired scene, because we're still in the same location.
Right. And here comes the spike.
This is awesome.
But he doesn't have a spike anymore because he broke it.
Yeah. So we saw him last time. He bent the spike apparently by stabbing somebody to death too hard.
Yeah. So he's got a little gun.
And this is them leaving the building with Janie is also kind of reaffirming a few things about paying the debt off and starting a new life and being debt free and getting worrying,
all of that,
fixing the car scenario and all this. In the middle of all this, you hear a scream, and Ike the Spike runs from the crowd and rushes them. And like you're pointing out, he's got a gun now, but there's this weird moment where he's not standing back and aiming and shooting a gun. Yeah. It's like he's so used to using a spike that he's going to rush you and stab you with a gun or something.
Yeah, or at least he's going to get up close. And then we see a flash of maybe our old Dale, almost, right? Sort of pushes Janie out of the way, grabs Spike's arm.
Yep, smacks him in the throat.
Yeah, Janie's involved too here, though.
Yeah, she's got her man's back. Yeah, she jumps and she's attacking him.
And then the thing I loved was with the evolution of the arm appearing. Squeeze his hand off.
Squeeze his hand off. Yeah. That's weird. And then, of course, it shows Coop in that moment where Ike the Spike is gripping the gun, and then Coop is gripping Ike the Spike's hand.
Yeah.
So, as you know, a grip on a gun can be quite rough, almost sharp.
Yeah, indeed.
And he does actually squeeze the palm of his hand off, leaving flesh on the gun.
And the gun is left behind, but it appears to me Ike the Spike gets away. He runs away after Dougie gets the gun
a few chops to the throat, and
Yeah.
Janie E. and getting your hand squeezed off. Turns out it was a bit much for Ike the Spike.
Yeah, and then this is an interesting bit in the a work like Twin Peaks that you get this kind of faux news coverage scene.
Yes. And you get audience reactions. First of which is Janie E. really saying, basically, "Oh, my man handled business." She says something along the lines of, and she's, it's a very exciting moment where you can see that she's enthralled. That
and then
he's
some
come
other
to protect
woman
her.
saying, for sure, Ike wasn't a victim or anything. Douglas Jones is a hero. And that kind of thing.
Yeah, and also we get a little girl that pops in there and says he smelled funny.
Right, like scorched engine
Could
oil,
be.
perhaps. At least I asked that question to myself.
Or maybe he just smelled like that half a bottle of Bullet that we saw him drinking earlier.
Yeah, maybe he just smells funny in a more ordinary kind of way.
Right.
We don't get much more than that.
Another quite interesting thing that happens in this scene is you see the close-up of the forensic scientists collecting the evidence. They pull the gun up and they peel the flesh off of the gun.
Yeah.
Itself just so abstract. When has that ever happened in a crime scene?
Right.
But the physics of it, the physiology of it, that could happen, right? If Agent Cooper is extremely strong.
Yeah.
But we see that it's happened.
Yeah.
They peel the flesh off and deposit it in an evidence bag.
And you notice some kind of effect here?
Yeah, there's definitely like a vignetting effect that happens here. We don't see this anywhere else in the show yet. But it's like trying to draw attention to something, like when you see in those, like, say, news investigative reports, this whole scene feels like that, like it's like a fictional investigative reports that's happening, where you see where they'll dark out everywhere in the image except for one little vignette area, and it's drawing your attention to that. Except the weird thing is it's totally a close-up shot of that happening, and the vignette fills most of the screen.
Yeah.
So obviously we're looking at that, but it's a stylistic maneuver, I guess, that they're pulling off. But I thought it was pretty interesting. But if nothing else, just to point out, hey, this bit of flesh is maybe a little bit more important. Remember that you saw this kind of thing.
That's cool. And I mean, I also got thinking here that there might be some possibility with this kind of fake news. No, sorry, not fake news, but with the move towards the style of this being a news story,
right?
Whether that might start getting Dougie Coop on the radar of, I don't know, Gordon or someone.
Yeah,
or
somebody's seeing
right?
this action, right? It calls that into attention, and also just the forensics of the flesh itself. That we might get DNA, we might get a match, we might finally discover. Some investigative officer might discover who Ike the Spike is from this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you kind of get the idea.
And they're probably going to want to talk to Dougie, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you kind of get the idea that Ike the Spike was like a untouchable kind of assassin that had always come through.
Yeah.
Because, when he's called in, it's because previously we saw a failed assassination attempt.
Right, Gene didn't get it done. So Ike the Spike is the, like the closer.
Yeah, he cleaned up the mess of the first assassination attempt, but now we see that he can't do it either.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
And so who's going to get a little red box on their computer now?
I don't know. We shall see.
So I thought that was quite interesting. Also super action-packed. And there's a little bit in what we're describing in this kind of news media style. Yeah. That there's a little bit of, I don't know, dream logic or something's off. It's maybe something like a fantasy that we've all had of ooh, I'll be the hero. Yeah. And, Janie E. jumps in. She's like, ooh, and then he was boom, bam, and my man's taking care of business. It's a really fun moment. And I love that scene a lot.
Yeah. So we go from there, I think, directly back to Twin Peaks, and we have this kind of interesting scene in the Great Northern with Ben Horne and Beverly.
Mm-hmm. There's a tone in the room, right? Like a ringing.
Yeah, and they're trying to figure out where it's coming from and kind of go back and forth in the room. This did make me think of Josie, just because the last time we saw Josie was in the Great Northern, and it seemed like she got trapped in the wood.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's speculation. Maybe they want us to think about that. We don't really get much more information other than there's this humming sound of indeterminate source.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're moving around the room and they're trying to see where it's coming from. Every time they get into a spot that it seems like it, they're like, no, it's coming.
Yeah,
not coming.
Now
from
it sounds like it's coming from over there. But in the midst of this, Beverly remembers that they have received the hotel key.
The key, 315. Right. And in seeing this, Ben Horne kind of has a moment where he's like, huh, we haven't used these kind of keys in 20 years, he points out, until we switched over to the card system, which we all know in our hotels now.
Yeah, and I like how, and speaking of Josie, I like how he remembered that it was Cooper's room because it was the room in which Josie shot Cooper.
Yes.
Right? Because you think, well, you're running a hotel. You probably are going to have those memories about that time that an FBI agent got shot in your hotel.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And I liked how they kind of put that detail in there.
Yeah, that was great. And he mentions Dale Cooper and he mentions Laura Palmer, and both of which Beverly says, who's Dale Cooper, who's Laura Palmer?
Yeah, he just says, well, that's a long story.
That's a long story. Yeah, and I love that there's this little meta moment. We have some characters in town now that weren't familiar with the insane amount of things that happened 25 years ago in this small town.
And I wondered about Beverly, because the next thing we see is she's going home, and there's a sort of, home nurse who says, he's been missing you. And we're getting the feeling that she's going to go into her sick husband just from that. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if this was going to be someone we know from the original run. My mind starts going along those lines, but of course it's not. This is a new character named Tom, and he's sick, and you have this little scene that doesn't really hook up with much of anything else. Yeah,
so she's late to come to him. She says, I want to make you some food, but he's kind of like, where were you? And he's bitter. You can tell he's a little bitter. This upsets her. She says, I know you're sick and all, but she says, don't use that to fuck with me.
Yeah.
And she says, don't fuck this up for me. I didn't want to go back to work, but I had to.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I drew a little parallel to thinking about Shelley and Leo in the original run once Leo's incapacitated. Mm-hmm. Other than that,
but there's
it's a good scene.
It is a good scene, and we have more questions that come up from this and wanting to see where this relationship is going. But, she says to him basically that she had things to do at work, and we just saw what was going on at work.
What she was doing was, where's that hum coming from?
Yeah, where's the hum coming from? And also, there's a little bit of something between the two in that moment. Besides the hum, besides the key, we don't know. Are they flirting? Are they, at the end of that scene, Ben says, don't call me Mr. Horn, call me Ben.
That's true, yeah.
And so there's a little bit of a familiarizing happening in that scene. And the way that they're moving around the room is I thought, kind of like a dance.
Yeah.
So we don't know what's going on there. We also know Ben Horn's history, being an authority figure that likes to use that.
And his history of infidelity.
Exactly.
Although I guess we also don't know whether Ben is still married to Sylvia at this point. I mean, we talked about that scene before at the Hayward's house in the season 2 finale.
Right.
We don't know what happened to Ben's marriage after that. But, being married never stopped him from fooling around in the past. Mm-hmm. Right. So we'll see where this is going with Beverly and her sick husband, Tom. Presumably we're going to see them again. I don't think this would just be a one-off for no reason. Mm-hmm.
And so again, we'll see what that leads to. From here, we actually get back to the Roadhouse.
Yeah, we're back to the Roadhouse for the music.
Yeah.
Right?
We think for the music, but it is for the music, but this time it's like pre-recorded music, right? We get Green Onions.
Right. Booker T and the
MGs. Yes.
Right.
And we get the scene where it seems like it's post-party or after a show at the Roadhouse, and they're cleaning up all the peanuts and junk on the floor.
I thought that was kind of brilliant. You just basically get something like 2 full minutes of the guy sweeping the floor.
Yeah. You see Jean-Michel Renaud in the background, but he's not saying anything or doing anything at first. It's just sweeping.
So talking about our expectations and potentially subverting them, we've been going to the Roadhouse most episodes in order to close out the episode. So watching this long scene of sweeping up the floor, you might half expect starring Kyle MacLachlan to pop up on your screen if you weren't paying attention to the time code.
Yeah, right.
But no, we're not done.
Mm-hmm.
It's interrupted ultimately with the phone ringing. And what did you think of this phone call, Mike?
Yeah, this is pretty messed up. So we have Jean-Michel Renaud. It's not Jacques Renaud, but we saw what the other Renauds were up to in the past.
Yeah.
He basically gets a call, and he's talking about prostitutes that he's provided for somebody, except it's told to him over the phone by some unknown source that they were 15 years old.
Yeah, but he keeps saying he owes me for 2. I sent him 2 blondes.
2 blondes that he said, I saw IDs.
He says they were whores or straight A whores.
Yeah, and he's correcting him. He's like, no, don't get it wrong. They're straight A whores. So he's whatever, is being placed on him about, they were too young. Or are you exploiting these ladies or whatever it is? He's saying, no, they're whores. But, 2 15-year-old girls.
Inflecting things and making the same facial expressions that we saw Jacques make years ago.
Yeah.
Although this is a different character now, as we've mentioned, Jean-Michel Renaud.
Correct.
Another brother, right? We're back to brothers.
Yeah. Here's
again.
Another set of brothers.
And
correct.
in particular, since it's the same actor and everything else, was this another? Not just another Renaud brother we never heard of before, but maybe Jacques' twin.
Yeah,
even.
twins.
So, that was interesting. And we don't know about One-Eyed Jacks and where that might stand, but certainly the Renaults are still involved with high school girls and prostitution, it would seem. Yeah.
Yep. This is something that came up before with Renault, and we saw that in Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, with Ronette, with Laura. Don't forget, these are girls that have not yet graduated high school.
Yeah, indeed.
And
they might have been 17. He's talking about 15.
I think there's a tendency to, because of the stylistic nature of the show, to forget, like, sometimes how extreme the acts of violence and the exploitation is that we're witnessing.
Yeah.
But this is sex trafficking. This is trafficking drugs. And it's some pretty horrible shit, basically.
Yeah, dark underbelly of Twin Peaks.
Exactly.
Yet again.
Exactly.
But we do end this episode not with the music of the Roadhouse. We end it instead at that other great Twin Peaks institution, which is the Double R Diner.
Yes. So this is, there's a little transition shot. I mean, of course, this skips to us seeing Ray and Mr. C driving out of the prison. After that, we get a transition shot. It's just the trees, the blowing of the trees.
Yep.
Which, of course, between the timber and just the green and the logging industry, trees play a significant role. And here's this trees transition from kind of a dark place into a place of light, the Double R Diner. It's busy, it's bustling, it's lit well. We see Shelley behind the counter, right?
And we've got this music playing. What is it?
Sleepwalker.
Yeah.
And so that's a really nice like slide guitar piece that is pretty popular. Like Green Onions is similar to the same era.
Yeah.
Is also kind of affected electric guitar sound. But Sleepwalker is very smooth, and it's got this really nice melody to it.
Right, but ultimately we talked about how playing it through the credits, it seems like they added something in here.
Yeah, if you follow this all the way to the end of the credits, toward the end of the credits, it's this beautiful song with those melodies, and you do start to hear a fade in on like a dark drone, like what can be described as a classic dark Black Lodge Twin Peaks kind of drone.
It reminded me of some of the music we might have heard around Wyndham Earl and the like in the original run.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly. Someone out there might have, done more work on this and isolating it. And if so, feel free to leave a comment. Let us know.
Yeah. But again, we have like something really sweet and good and light, but it's got a seed of darkness underneath it. And that comes out in the music as well. But what we're witnessing actually is just like a thriving moment of the Double R Diner. And so it plays very sweet, and it's a nice place to end the episode. As we're reaching the end of episode 7, and we've seen a lot of disturbing action-packed things happen in this episode, just to bring it back home to the Double R, and the Double R being successful, being a place, this is the gathering spot. This is really the town square, or the big fire, the bonfire that everybody gathers around, is the Double R. That's the center of the light and the goodness that happens at Twin Peaks. At least that's how kind of I read it.
Yeah, cool. And, there is this one little thing we talked about that you can notice. It's very quick from shot to shot where the patrons do seem to move around, or maybe they're different people. Again, though, I don't know. That could be just a continuity error or something like that. But it is there.
Yeah, and this might be worth talking about just for a quick minute, is this continuity error that could just be a simple continuity error. They were shooting that scene for 6 hours, and turns out they only used a minute.
Yeah.
So a couple people maybe have changed positions in just what seems like an edit over a second. But there's also something that happens where a character runs in and screams, "Hey, anybody seen Bing?" And then kind of runs away again.
Yeah, or does he say Billy?
Well, I was watching, actually, the second time I watched the episode, I watched it through with credits.
Yeah.
And in the credits with subtitles.
Yeah.
And in the subtitles that I saw, it does say Bing.
Yeah.
And to me, I don't know if I was just reading it, but I heard Bing as well.
Okay.
But here's again, is this a continuity error, or is something being set up to kind of make this a little bit off?
Right, because then also in the credits, we do get Bing credited. Played by Riley Lynch, David's son. But it would be weird. See, I think that it's supposed to be that he asked if anyone had seen Billy, and that we're seeing Bing, and that's why he's in the credits. But this is weird too. Yeah, again. So just a couple things in this scene that are either mistakes or not. And, if they are mistakes, even that, I guess I wouldn't hesitate to call them mistakes if we were dealing with other people, right? But with David Lynch, I don't know.
That's why I give it pause too. Because on any other project, this is, and it's hard to say mistakes. It's continuity errors that aren't caught in the filming, and then in editing, you put it together and you're like, oh, well, this person's in a different spot. Yeah. So that could be, but knowing what we know, it could potentially be some of this misdirection we're talking about. It does bring up the fact of, like, is there a dream logic kind of thing happening?
Right.
Or possibly this kind of, it's also been hinted at, this interdimensionalism happening.
Yeah. So is it a continuity error or two? Or is it a little clue of some kind?
And if it were a clue and we were going to analyze that a little bit more, we would be guessing at parallel universe theory or something like that, right?
Something like that. We've talked about the inconsistencies between what we know from the show and what's in the secret history. And that's going to be a big question that we have in the back of our minds. There are a number of inconsistencies. So how do we ultimately reconcile that? I mean, to parallel it, right, one way would be to suggest that, well, in the secret history, we have an unreliable narrator or something like that.
Right.
Is it that? That would be kind of deflationary. Or is it going all the way in the other direction towards, maybe there are, multiple parallel Twin Peakses at play here, right?
Ooh, now you're getting into something that could be. Well, the whole idea of duality we've been talking about this whole time. Yeah. Also the fact that it is Twin Peaks.
Yeah, so
with the brothers, with good and evil characters being embodied separately.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of this happening. We talked about Deer Meadow.
Right. It wouldn't exactly be, out of nowhere if there's also somehow a duality to the town itself. I just don't know if there's quite enough at this point to, really say that.
Yeah. But we're fanatical, so we're going to speculate a little bit.
Absolutely.
And part of that is going to include, considering phrases like, is it future or is it past? And when you get there, you will already be there.
Right.
So there's quite a lot of things that are woven in there that make me go, what's going on?
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's just getting better. The mystery is raveling or unraveling, maybe both, and increasing for me. And I here at the end of episode 7, I find myself like, I cannot wait to see what's happening next. Okay, well, that wraps up this episode of Drink Full and Descend, a fanatical analysis of Twin Peaks. Thank you, Cameron. It's always good discussing all this with you.
Absolutely, Mike. Thank you as well. I enjoy this experience immensely.
Me too. Yeah, this is really fun. Not only going through it, possibly raising some eyebrows and helping some other people interpret some things that are going on, but I would like to also state throughout all this, I'm really appreciating this. I'm really loving this process of really kind of digging into all of this. And I don't pretend to have any secret knowledge or any secret understanding that anybody else could have. Because at its core, this is about the mystery, and I feel like we're not really going to get a solid answer on anything.
Right. We're just thinking about these things a whole lot. And, as always, I hope people are listening and enjoying this ride with us. And, feel free to comment, point out things that we may have missed or disagree with us or prove us wrong about something.
Yeah, exactly. And even when we get down into these rabbit holes of speculation, who knows, 6 more episodes from now, we might find out that it was about the bunny.
It is all about the bunny.
It might be all about that bunny.
I'm pretty sure it actually is. Yeah. And it's all Lucy's fault.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lucy's going to rain terror across all of these cities that we've been visiting.
It's like
one day I hope to do a nice little road trip that will include Snoqualmie, Washington, the Black Hills in South Dakota, New York City, Las Vegas, Buenos Aires, Argentina, and
it's a hell of a road trip.
And also, where was Mr. C in that photograph that we saw in the last episode?
Oh, we didn't talk about this, I don't think, but Mr. C in that photograph is actually in Al Capone's mansion.
Oh, he's in Al Capone's what?
Yeah.
And this is just something that we know from the net, or
it's something that I know from the internet.
Okay.
I came across. It's from Al Capone's mansion in Miami, but
he's supposed to be in Rio.
He's supposed to be in Rio
in that picture,
because the mansion now belongs to a girl from Ipanema.
Right, exactly. To which Diane has like kind of rolling her eyes at Albert at that point, describing it that way. But what a cool photo, and what an interesting. Okay, so Mr. C has really gotten around. Here's him in Rio.
Yeah, in Gangster's Paradise.
And yeah, it is like a rap music video shoot, like pool, and the front porch that leads to the pathway is surrounded by 2 pools or whatever. And Swanky to see Mr. C in that scenario. That was really funny.
Really cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So
thanks for joining us.
Yep, we're signing off now. Enjoy. Have a good one.